I mean, we should understand that prior to 1948, there were about, I think, 4% of the Palestinians were Jews. So there is Jews, Christians, and Muslim in Palestine, in original Palestine.
Right.
So the question never was a problem between the religions. It's never a religious war. We don't fight. The Palestinians are not fighting Israel because the Israelis are Jews.
Right.
And nobody should look at it at this way. I don't think, I haven't personally seen anything look at it from this point of view. Israel, as we know it, only been there for 60 years. We have a continuous recorded history and living on that property for 6,000 years. Now, if somebody lived in 1948 and actually was kicked after huge massacres and still living in a camp in Lebanon, just across the border, his right or her right to his home that he was forced to leave 60 years ago doesn't quit. I mean, his land is his land, his right is his right. What we're saying is we're not going to kick the people who've been living there for 60 years, the invaders, because we understand that their kids were born there. We understand that probably their relatives were Palestinians. Whatever the reason is, we're not going to grab them and throw them in the sea like they always come up with these crazy ideas. Even though, if you look at it, from your perspective, from anybody's perspective, it could be acceptable. If somebody comes and take over my land, and I go, I mean, for me to get my land back, I go to a pawn shop, pick up a gun, and I go shoot him. This is in America, it's very acceptable. I mean, how else can you get your land back? The sheriff is not going to get you your land back. So technically, to kick him, throw him in the sea, or kick him, send him, put him in a plane and send him back to Poland, could be acceptable if if you look at it logically. We're saying we're not going to do that. We're saying you've been living there for 60 years. Everybody know that you came, invaded us, killed us, kicked us out of their home, but you've been living there for 60 years. If you want to continue to live there, you're going to have to respect my right to the land. You're going to have to respect that this land is an Arab land. It's the heart of the Arab world. If you want to live there knowing and respecting these things and become part of the society. I mean, it's how else can you do it? But throwing them in the sea, you could easily excuse it. We're not going to do that. However, their government, their political leaders, are really pushing the envelope too much. This massacre in Gaza that just happened, and throwing two-ton bombs on kids, is really not keeping any good feelings between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Yeah. If I were part of the negotiating team, the Palestinian negotiating team, I don't know what I would say. So there.
The Nuremberg trial.
Well, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, another thing we should do is actually demand that these war criminals be put to justice. So to go back to your question, no, we're not going to kick them out. But our land is our land. Our right is our right. We're going to go back.
I would like.
I think that's what you say, but what they fear is that if they do lower the walls, and allow them back in, that they're going to come and there's going to be a few Palestinians who are going to want to attack and try to wipe off what they did to their parents because they killed their dad or killed their son, their wives, things like that. There's pissed off Palestinians right now that want to go back and they want revenge. And then if you just lower the borders, the Jews and the Israelis are afraid that they're gonna come back and they're just gonna kill them.
The problem with that is, I'm not sure I'm fond of the ideas that my colleague has put forward, I should be honest. But the problem with that idea that you're coming up with, that we're actually already living together. The fact of the matter is, in Palestine today, there is already, Palestine, I'm talking about present-day Israel and the occupied areas. We're already basically, the population is basically split in half, maybe slight majority Palestinian today. Okay, so their concern with that, they're the ones who are concerned with that. It's not because we are killing them. We're not, actually. They killed over 1,300 kids, 1,300 people in this last bombardment of Gaza, according, so we're not the ones who are doing the killing. And we're living already together, although unequally, right? So the revenge theory is kind of overblown, if you will, and even under the present circumstances. And we are the majority even today, by the way, if you take into account that the whole area is occupied.
May I just say something about the revenge issue? I think Israelis should understand that they are living in a sea of Arabs, and they can have the most powerful weaponries human being can get. They wouldn't be able to use these weapons unless they want to commit suicide. So if their political leadership wants them to commit suicide, then be it. The other part of the coin is to really try to find a way where no more bloodshed will happen, have a just solution, turn the wall. The wall you're talking about, I'm from Bethlehem, and the wall is suffocating Bethlehem. So and Bethlehem is it's not close to Tel Aviv, and Palestinians don't have weapons to really shoot to Tel Aviv. So the issue of this fear that they're trying to create doesn't exist. They're the occupiers. They're the one with the weapons. They're the one with the money. They're the one with the support of the U.S. And we are the victims. It's not the other way around. So it's
and they're the ones with the Zionist goal of establishing an exclusive Jewish state in all of Palestine. And the only way you establish an exclusive Jewish state in all of Palestine is by killing or expelling the people, or both. There's no other way. As long as they say that they are Zionists, they are the ones who are doing the killing. Okay? They're the ones who are occupying. They're the ones who want to rid the land of its indigenous inhabitants.